The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View, sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee. And if you want, we meet at the Crown Plaza the second Thursday of every month. And if you want to find out more information, you can go to our website at nashuagop.org.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, and help me welcome Senator Chuck Morse, the President of the Senate.
Thanks for having me again.
Okay, thanks for coming. And we have a lot of things going on up there. I mean, you've made the two bills on concealed carry and right to work be treated in a fast manner.
Yep, the senators that put those bills in certainly chased down the signatures from all their colleagues, and those were the first. Well, a group of 10 were delivered to me right up front, and we got going with those two bills. And it's concealed carry and right to work, and I think they'll both be very effective for New Hampshire.
Well, I do too, and I think that for the most part they've been pretty well welcomed by the House. I think that there might be some discussion when that comes up, though. I guess it's this week that they're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, I think really what our goal has been, and all along, is we wanted to drive this economy. We certainly concentrated on taking down business taxes, and that's worked. I mean, you can see where unemployment is. We're actually producing more money here in New Hampshire for the government by doing that. And right to work was the next most logical step to make New Hampshire thrive, and we're going to make sure we make that happen.
And it's not something that's designed to go after the unions. It's really to give freedom to the people that are working in a company.
Oh, I believe that, and I think it's been proven that we will actually grow union jobs.
Right.
I mean, through this process. But I think, it's what businesses want to see in the Northeast, and we should offer that to them and try to bring businesses here while we're growing the businesses we have.
Well, right here in Nashua, we have one group that works for the city, the Parks and Department, and they have their own pension fund. And they have done a very good job of keeping that floating and not have problems with worrying about the return on their investments. So they handle theirs, the way they want to handle, which I think could be a function of the unions all the way around.
Yeah, I think it's just another tool that will help people work harder to make sure that they protect things like that. New Hampshire being $4 or $5 billion short in their pension fund isn't acceptable. We need to work on that. But right to work, separate from that, I think just makes for better competition.
I think you're right, and I don't think the public union should be that afraid of things that they like getting rid of them, because that's not the objective of this.
No, I don't believe that was the objective from the beginning. I think we wanted to have tools in the tool bag to make sure that we were growing this economy in New Hampshire. I mean, last time I was here, I talked about I-93 and expanding it, and how I thought, that we were going to start to see growth in New Hampshire. We have to provide the tools like lowering business taxes and then putting right to work in place so those businesses move here.
And lowering the business tax, even the fractions that we did, brought in a lot extra this time, didn't it? And, here we can do something for the people.
Well, it not only did that, I had businesses calling me and thanking us for the fact that we were lowering it. I mean, the BET is an income tax.
Yeah.
And, the sooner we get rid of that, the better. And because we don't want to be noted for that here in New Hampshire. I mean, and we've certainly heard from businesses that are leaving New Hampshire. I mean, I'm sure energy plays a major role in that, but that they don't like the fact that we have a business enterprise tax that taxes payroll.
Well, the taxes that they do have, though, hopefully will come down even more, and maybe keep on increasing our income. I mean, that's sort of, I don't think people really grasp the fact that if you encourage people to use their money to help the business to grow, they'll actually increase their income and pay some more tax on it there.
It's working already.
Yeah.
I mean, reality is we lowered those business taxes. You're hearing businesses talk about investments, and I think that's just a good thing. I mean, the more we let them take their capital and reinvest it, which is what we're trying to do here in New Hampshire, the better. And I'm sure the federal government's going to follow suit. And if we do that and we basically, I know you're on Public Works, if we basically invest in the infrastructure with the money that we do have, that we've created from that, I think we're basically going to grow a great economy in New Hampshire.
I agree with you. I think that's something that people don't realize, though. We've, as you said, I've filled this rainy day fund. So now we have something extra, which we can go to these areas of infrastructure.
Well, I mean, filling the rainy day fund was a feat.
Yeah.
Not everybody agreed with me that we should fill the rainy day fund. I mean, we certainly put solutions in place that made it that you had to do it. I mean, number one, we've taken every lawsuit that New Hampshire has, 10% of it now has to, when they win, has to go into the rainy day fund. In this last round where we got money in there, we put $30 million just from the Exxon Mobil suit. So those things, forcing the legislature to live within its means, are great things, and we've done that. I think that's one part of what we've done, and I firmly believe that if there's any money beyond what we've filled the rainy day fund with, we ought to give it back to the taxpayers in the form of road and bridges, and we'll do that.
That seems like a very smart way of using those extra money. Do you have anything in mind about transportation and other issues along the infrastructure line?
I'm always thinking about it. I mean, I actually, when I started in the House, back in 1998, I was on the same committee that you're on, and I certainly love talking about it. I mean, we were talking about Route 93 back then. We're still not finished. We need to get 2 major permits. I'm certain that we're going to work with the governor to get that. But I've been over here to Nashua several times, and we've talked in Public Works back in 1998 that we should get rail to Nashua.
Right.
Someone along the way decided that they have to solve every problem. I knew when I was tackling 993 and getting the funding and the permitting, we had to stay focused. In Nashua, if you focus on bringing rail to Nashua, I mean, I'm certain, just like we did out on 93, you could create a bus system to do the rest of it. I think that would be important, but I think getting rail to Nashua is very important, and I think you guys should concentrate on that over here, and I'm certain that piece would work. I mean, the other pieces, it's taken over 30 years to get 93
That's
done.
right.
So if anyone over here feels frustrated, I think you have to keep fighting your battles and making things work one piece at a time.
I agree with you on that, and we do have the area to develop that. We have the track, and we have space to store trains, and right at the borderline at Pheasant Lane Mall. And what I also, when we talk about roads, we want to have that exit 36 South going into that feed so that people that come down can meet the train down there. And we'll have all buses, too, going east and west coming in there.
Well, I'm sure you'll fight for it. One of the things I find interesting right now when we talked about the buses, reality is we've created a great bus system to Boston.
True.
We need to reverse it and send it to our own airport. I mean, those are just common sense things that we can do, and I think we need to start to make that happen and get the flights back here in New Hampshire. I've spoken to the governor about that already. I think it's important, and as we finish up on that highway, in the 2020 era,
Definitely.
I think it's time for New Hampshire to start to dominate a little bit.
So we got to think ahead, but take one step at a time, right?
Well, when you're talking infrastructure projects, they're usually major dollars, and I think they're always going to be slow. I mean, I know people want them done in a day. That's never going to happen. But I think for the first time, you're seeing when New Hampshire concentrates on growing the economy, what the effects of that are. We're a little concerned about Health and Human Services right now, what we were left with in that budget. But I do believe there's going to be a few dollars that are going to be left over that we need to send back to the taxpayers. And I think we need to, the formula we have in New Hampshire works, and we need to send it back in the formula of roads and bridges.
Well, there's other little things too that people are coming up with. We've at the Public Works Committee, we've heard bills that people want to help on rural transportation, bus transportation, or even the freight lines that are going up north and hopefully help Coos County on that. Have you had any discussions along those lines?
No, the only bill on rail that's come to the Senate, which the mayor testified on the other
Right.
day, was the $4 million planning bill. That hasn't been dealt with in the Senate. The rail lines up in the North Country, I believe, are in the House right now.
Right,
And
right.
we'll wait till you get done with that bill. But that bill was basically, and this is where government can be creative and do things right. They're basically encouraging the people that need the money to put in half, and
Definitely.
the fact that the government will put in the other half. Those are good projects because people definitely want it.
And we'll support it.
I think as we look forward to these water projects, with the ExxonMobil money, it needs to have basically people on the outside wanting the projects, the government helping that project happen. I know you have a great water system over here and a great company running it. There's opportunity here to expand that in the southern tier.
I agree with you there, and I think that we'll probably look at our capital budget, which will be coming up, I guess, next month, to see what kind of improvements we can work with there.
Well, Gene Chandler is probably the strictest guy I know in that capital budget, and he treats it like it's his own baby. And it'll be interesting to see where the governor goes with the capital budget, and then I believe your committee will do a lot of work. The Senate, we usually, when the capital budget comes over, we may get to do a little fine tuning, but the House has always dominated the capital budget process.
Well, it is an interesting process, and we are really demanding of the people who ask for some of this from the standpoint, are they organized? Are they doing it properly? Do they have the proper buy-in? I mean, there's several examples we've had where it's taken people, 10 years to get their whole thing straight to be able to support it.
Yeah, I think the public doesn't get to see the House and the Senate the way they work through that. I mean, I think the people that are on those committees are so dedicated. Obviously, with the limited amount of money we have to bond, you want to make sure it's working today.
That's right.
And that's what both committees, the House and the Senate, have done.
Well, I've been happy to say that the community colleges have done an excellent job in using the money that they've asked for. They've done quite a bit. They've contributed some on their own, so that they don't have everything given to them.
Well, I think we have to be creative with young people right now, and the community college system stepped up to the plate early. They froze their tuition. They are basically trying to work with young people coming out of high school to get them right into programs that they can, put to work in 2 years or 4 years, depending on, they have a relationship with the university system. So after 2 years, you can transfer right in. They're definitely being forward thinking. Paul Holloway has been great there.
Yes.
He's been very forward thinking. He's worked with the legislature to getting them to loosen up just a little bit. And I think it's been a great investment, working with them.
He has a good relationship with the businesses around too, from what I understand. At least some of the presentations that he's made discusses how they look for problems that might be coming up, and then they get prepared to educate the people. And that's what we want. We want to have the workers up here. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that they can't find the workers.
Well, I mean, that's we could have a show on that.
That's true.
I mean, the reality is it's, when you have 424 people in the House and the Senate on the road, you hear all the problems. I mean, I don't doubt that you hear the same things I'm hearing. They want to solve this problem of getting labor out, and I think it's, tenfold. I think you're going to have to, not only on education, we have to reconsider the kind of housing we're doing. They don't want 2-acre zoning, the millennials. They want something different. They want to live, work, and play in the same area. I know Salem's considering it. Derry probably will on the 600 acres they have. Bedford, where the Wayfarer was, they're putting something in there. It's, the housing project's another piece. I think there's all kinds of things that we have to start to listen, to the young people of what they want and help them to get to that point. I mean, we certainly realize they can't carry this debt, and we need to find a way to work with scholarships. But I also think the legislature needs to get heavily involved in that. I mean, we're constantly being called upon to give the money to the systems and let them do that. I think we need to get involved in that.
I think we've encouraged a lot of that here. I'm not sure you've been to the area up around Spitbrook Road where BA has their headquarters, and the development they're doing on that little mountain that we have there. They have a number of townhouses and stuff right next to the industrial park. So that, as you said, the workers are close by, and it's developing into a little village by itself.
Yeah, and that's where you don't want Concord involved.
Right.
I mean, the local communities can solve these problems. I mean, we can encourage that they solve them, but I think that's fantastic. And that's what I think's the problem. Right now, Portsmouth's thriving. Everybody wants to live over there. The rents are going up.
Yeah.
And I watch my own nephew. You can pile 4 or 5 guys in a 2-bedroom unit, and they're happy because they're used to it in college, but they get to get the lifestyle that they want, I think we need to listen to that. And, when I was growing up, everybody kept saying, bigger lot sizes, and, while we do respect the farmland and everything that we've always had, it's getting eaten up, and we don't have enough housing for these people. So we got to do something.
That's true, and we have to make sure that the cities take up some development too that can handle a more congested area that they have. That doesn't work very well.
No, and I think cities and towns look at it differently, to be honest with you. I went to the Salem Planning Board. Rockingham Park, we don't have to talk about gaming anymore. It's over. I went to their planning board meeting the other night to see what's being proposed on 170 acres there. And, it's totally different than what Salem grew up with. And it's pretty interesting that it's getting a lot of support.
Well, there are other things that we should be paying attention to too. What are you going to send over to the House out of the more routine stuff, other than the rail $4 million program?
Well, first of all, we look forward to the House sending us a balanced budget this time.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's going to be a little different. I mean, I think the governor's going to propose a budget on the 9th that we can work with, and the House will get their shot at that. Beyond that, I mean, I think we've heard from the businesses. We've got to solve the energy problems,
right?
And to the extent that we can in Concord. But that oftentimes means that Concord just has to get out on the streets and start to talk to people. I mean, we saw what happened with 2 gas lines trying to come into New Hampshire, and one of them wasn't listening to the people. The other one was listening, and I think in the long run, they'll probably get siting going up Route 95. That's sorely needed. We need to bring that gas here. But I also think we need to start talking about the hydropower. And I think there's good reason to go out, listen to the people, find a way to solve these problems, and we'll do that. And I think we're sending the House some of that. It's certainly things that we believe in. We're certainly sending you business tax reductions that I'm sure you'll be talking about in your budget anyways. We believe we need to be cautious because, we have business tax reductions all over the board, different ways to solve problems. I believe the governor thinks that we should lower the BET and the BPT again, and I think the Senate believes in that too. Senator Sanborn and Senator Bradley have filed bills on that. So we'll be sending you that, and I think you'll probably deal with that in the budget. But there's exciting times coming. I think it's much about driving the economy. I mean, we talked about rules with the governor and how businesses are basically getting frustrated. I think a lot of it's federal. I think they've made it very difficult for people to keep their trucks on the road or build their business. And those things will start to happen federally. And I don't pretend say the Senate's going to solve any of that. But as we're going along with things, I think we have to make it very clear. If you're going to produce something and you're going to put rules in, the businesses better hear about it before we pass it in Concord.
Yeah, so we got to listen to the feedback, because sometimes there are people that really don't have the background in business in our legislature that want to make the change, but they don't quite understand what might be best for the business.
Yeah, and I don't take it lightly because I own a small business. And, my wife and I have been very successful, but my wife basically takes care of everything to do with HR, and she takes care of everything about keeping the trucks on the road for paperwork. And you just go down and have a conversation with her about putting another rule in place. I mean, we're meeting on Saturday in order to talk about what we have to do with this year's rules, in order to keep the company going, because of the way the economy's putting pressure on our company. So it's important that you talk to people. And I think, I can go back to my company and talk to the guys that work for me or my wife in the office, and, they're pretty knowledgeable about what's causing hardships. I think you saw in this last election, businesses are basically saying, we've had enough. We've had enough. And not because they don't want to do their fair share, because that's baloney. They want to make sure, if I make you a successful business, you're going to buy a sub every day at that sub shop. You're going to donate to the local Boys and Girls Club. I mean, those things happen. And I think, if I'm a charity right now, I'm excited that this economy is going to get going, and I should be in line to make sure that everything's going to work. And I know my friends are talking about how they're going to help things, happen in the local community. So things are happening, but if you got out of their way a little bit and, gave them a little space, I don't think they're going to do anything wrong. I think they're going to do what's right, and I honestly believe they'll be very successful doing that.
I agree with you, and I don't know if you've heard about the Harbor Homes group here in Nashua. They're working to coordinate a lot of those not-for-profit organizations so that they're building almost a company of subsidiaries so that they work on the overall plan of helping people, whether they're homeless, addicted, or handicapped or whatever. They're working so that all of them sort of get together and even help one another. And it's more effective, of course.
Since the last time I was here, I went over to meet Peter. I toured there. I certainly love their board of directors strategy of all working, all these separate groups working together. I certainly saw Peggy Gilmore and her husband's investment over there of helping people get out of the hospital and transitioning. Listen, great thing. If you could only get people to work together like that throughout the state, I think that's fantastic. I went back to my district and tried to tell somebody, you should work on the homeless by talking to Harbor Homes, and it's like you're competing. It's not competing, you learn from the best.
That's right.
And I think you guys are doing a great job over here. And Peter's certainly been there, I think, 30 years now, and he certainly knows where to find some money and make things happen. And good luck for you guys. It's great.
I'm amazed at the results that they've had. But talking about that, what I'd like to see is the same type of coordination in getting businesses into New Hampshire. I don't think we have that coordination in that area. The state doesn't work as closely as I'd like to see them work with the different chambers of commerce or whatever, or the mayors of the different areas.
I look forward to the governor's speech on the 9th.
Okay.
I think the governor's going to tackle that head on.
Is he?
And I think you're right. We have a lot of different groups, heading in the same direction, all seriously wanting to do the best job, but it needs some coordination. I think the governor's going to tackle that.
Well, back in the late 90s, I was down in Texas with a startup company, and we saw Texas sort of fighting like that. All the big cities were trying to compete against each other. Somebody was smart enough to bring the people from North Carolina in to tell how they grew. They went in there and they sold everybody on the fact that, all right, we're going to develop around this center of the universities, but every major city in town and in the state's going to get something. And 20 years later, everyone had something that was supporting the research and development that was being done around the colleges. And that kind of thing is certainly applicable around here.
Look, you have a young governor. He's rolling up his sleeves. It's exciting times. I think we're going to work well together. We want to see New Hampshire start to thrive. Boston's been doing it for a few years. I think it's our turn, and I think we're going to make it work.
I think you're right. And we've had the governor on before while he was running for election, and he is very enthusiastic. You can just see it pouring out of him. He has a whole bunch of ideas. I'm waiting to see what he's going to present to us next Thursday.
Well, I certainly believe the governor's, he hasn't ignored the opioid crisis.
Right.
He certainly believes that we need to, 500 totally unacceptable, one's unacceptable, and we need to end this. He's certainly taken that himself. I mean, in the Senate, we've certainly talked to him about the fact that we want to put in more law enforcement. If there's money to put back into budgets this year, we want to do that and put law enforcement on the street and help the cities. I mean, we did it with Granite Hammer. We want to more than double our effort in that category. The governor gets it. He gets it, and he's been meeting on it, and he's going to make it happen.
And I think he recognizes, too, the long-term problem that you have to keep this, you just can't get them off it right away and then hope that they're going to stay off it. You got to help them out somehow.
No, look, it needs to get done.
Yeah.
I mean, Governor Hassan started us down that path. I think we need to review everything we did under that, and I think we certainly believe we need to stop this from happening in New Hampshire. I think you'll hear the governor talk about that.
Oh, we're waiting for that. That's going to be quite an interesting week next week.
I think it will be.
Well, we're almost out of time. Is there any other thing you'd like to add? Tell the people about what the Senate is going to be doing.
No, listen, I have 24 members in the Senate. They're all working very hard right now. I mean, our legislation, after you guys were in line with your 800 pieces, we were a little late to get going, but the Senate hasn't changed. The reality is we believe we need to bring a budget that's balanced to the state of New Hampshire. We're certainly waiting to have you do your part to that, and then we certainly have ideas we want to do there. But beyond that, we know we have to deal with this energy issue in New Hampshire and drive this economy. So we're going to get that done. I mean, we certainly mean what we say, and we're trying to get out on the road and make sure the public understands where we're going.
Well, I hope our two Nashua senators are helping you along that line.
Your two Nashua senators are very effective senators, and I enjoy working with them.
Good. Well, thank you very much for the time, and hopefully we'll touch base before the end of the session.
Well, thanks for having me on again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.